In the lexicon of modern operational art, water obstacles are traditionally viewed as ultimate defensive force multipliers. For over 2 years, the Dnipro River served as a natural moat separating the Ukrainian-held right bank from the Russian-occupied left bank in the Kherson Oblast. To break this strategic deadlock, the Russian Ministry of Defense enacted a doctrinal pivot in early 2024, standing up the specialized Dnipro River Flotilla. This force was designed to act as an aggressive riverine shield, projecting power across the labyrinth of marshes, sandbars, and small islands that dominate the Dnipro Delta. On paper, the Kremlin strategy was textbook amphibious defense. Russian forces deployed elements of the 61st Naval Infantry Brigade, a unit historically specialized in Arctic amphibious operations, alongside the elite 98th Guards Airborne Division. Their task was straightforward: maintain relentless patrol loops between Kherson and occupied Oleshki, conduct localized cross-river raids, and deny Ukrainian reconnaissance teams any permanent foothold on the river's complex island chain. However, beneath the surface of this apparent operational stability lay an acute structural vulnerability. The Russian military command treated the Dnipro Delta as a conventional front line, relying heavily on localized manpower and armored patrol vessels to police a shifting fluid environment. They failed to realize that the rules of engagement in riverine warfare were undergoing a radical technology-driven evolution. The stage was set for an asymmetrical catastrophe, one that would see a heavily fortified riverine defense line collapse, not from a massive mechanized breakthrough, but through a calculated multi-domain tactical ambush. The execution of the Ukrainian counter-riverine operation is a masterclass in modern small unit tactics and localized air-ground integration. The planning fell to Ukraine's 34th Separate Marine Brigade. For months, Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicle or UAV teams mapped every Russian observation post, machine gun nest, and boat slipway along the Oleshki axis. The targets were 4 critical landmasses stretching across the delta: Oleksivsky, Pempkinsky, Kruik, and Korbelev Islands. In classical military doctrine, these islands are nightmares to assault. They offer virtually no solid ground for heavy armor, are heavily mined with anti-personnel devices, and are completely exposed to observation from the elevated left bank. Conventional infantry tactics here simply fail. To overcome these odds, the 34th Marine Brigade exploited a classic vulnerability: weather. Waiting for a dense system of low-level fog and heavy precipitation, which neutralized Russian optical and thermal reconnaissance assets, Ukrainian assault teams launched just before first light. Utilizing low-signature rigid-hull inflatable boats, or RHIBs retrofitted with specialized ultra-quiet electric outboards, Ukrainian Marines moved like ghosts across the black waters. The tactical sequence was precise. The primary assault hit Oleksivsky Island. Operating in near-total darkness, Ukrainian special operators conducted silent kinetic takedowns of isolated Russian forward observation posts. Before the Russian command structure at Oleshki could process the loss of signal from Oleksivsky. Subsequent waves of Ukrainian Marines breached the beaches of Pemkinsky, Kruik, and Korbolev Islands. The defense crumbled under a devastating tactical synergy. As the Marines cleared trenches, Ukrainian FPV loitering munitions and pre-sighted mortar batteries saturated the Russian retreat corridors. The 61st Naval Infantry and 98th 5DY units, cut off from immediate reinforcement, suffered localized command paralysis. By sunrise, Russian forces abandoned all 4 islands, leaving behind millions of dollars in night vision gear, heavy machine guns, and tactical communications equipment. While Russian forces were retreating through the treacherous marshes of the Dnipro, a jarring disconnect emerged between the tactical reality on the ground and the strategic narrative inside the Kremlin. In a carefully staged broadcast, Russian President Vladimir Putin was filmed reviewing operations on the southern front, confidently inquiring if his forces were advancing along the Zaporizhzhia axis. The footage was designed to broadcast an aura of total control, painting a picture of an unyielding Russian military machine slowly grinding down Ukrainian resistance. But to military analysts, the video underscored a profound systemic flaw within the Russian military hierarchy, the filtering of bad news as it moves up the chain of command. While the state media focused on vast static defensive lines in Zaporizhzhia, the critical riverine joint between Kherson and Oleshki had just been severed. By taking these 4 islands, Ukraine did not just seize wet mud, they secured an operational platform that completely altered the geometry of the southern theater. The islands provide Ukraine with elevated surveillance positions and forward electronic warfare nodes directly adjacent to the Russian-occupied left bank. The immediate tactical consequence of this collapse is a dramatic expansion of the Ukrainian fire control zone. From these forward island positions, Ukrainian mortar squads and drone pilots can look directly into the rear logistics lines of Oleshki. Ammunition dump sites, troop staging areas, and secondary defensive trenches that were once safely out of range are now actively targeted. To understand why Russia's river defense line dissolved so rapidly, we must analyze the hardware and technological doctrines that collided on the water. This is the 20% of the story that highlights the stark divergence between Soviet-era military heritage and 21st century network-centric warfare. When the Russian Defense Ministry stood up the Dnipro River Flotilla, they resurrected an old Soviet concept, the heavy armored river gunboat. To spearhead the fleet, they transferred Project 1204 Shmel-class patrol boats from the Caspian Sea. On paper, the Shmel class is an intimidating asset. It weighs nearly 70 tons, features armored plating, capable of deflecting small arms fire, and mounts a 76mm tank turret alongside twin 14.5mm heavy machine guns. It was built specifically to dominate inland waterways, acting as a floating fortress to crush infantry crossings. Ukraine counterattacked not with a rival navy, but with an asymmetric aviation doctrine. Mass-produced FPV kamikaze drones costing less than $500 apiece were launched from hidden tree lines on the right bank. These drones, carrying shape-charge RPG-7 warheads, targeted the unarmored top decks, engine compartments, and steering rudders of the Shmel boats. Furthermore, Ukraine integrated its long-range missile assets into the riverine hunt. The decisive structural blow to the flotilla occurred prior to the island assault, when precision strikes leveled the fleet's primary maintenance, logistics, and radar hub located at Olenivka. This strike decapitated the fleet's early warning capability. Left without centralized radar coordination, the remaining active Russian watercraft, which reportedly numbered over 300 smaller patrol boats in early intelligence estimates, became isolated targets. With the Russian river fleet rendered combat ineffective, the Ukrainian General Staff is now exploiting their success to pioneer an entirely new form of military doctrine, the floating island chain concept. Rather than executing a high-risk, large-scale mechanized crossing of the Dnipro, which would expose vast columns of armored vehicles to Russian long-range aviation and glide bombs, Kyiv is opting for an incremental, multi-layered siege strategy. The implications of the collapse of Putin's river line extend far beyond local geography. On a tactical level, by pushing Russian tube artillery and drone launch sites back from the riverbank, Ukraine has created a localized medium-altitude sanctuary zone over the Dnipro. This opening provides a critical corridor for the Ukrainian Air Force to begin integrating Western-supplied 5th and 4th generation fighter assets into the theater, dropping precision-guided munitions with a significantly reduced risk of interception by short-range Russian air defenses. On the Russian side, the crisis is manifesting in an accelerating degradation of troop morale. Intelligence reports suggest a sharp increase in absent without leave, or AWOL, cases among the surviving units of the Kherson grouping, driven by the realization that they are being asked to hold exposed positions with broken supply lines and no viable naval support. Ultimately, the battle for the Dnipro Delta serves as a stark warning to modern military planners. Traditional geographic barriers and legacy naval assets mean nothing if they cannot survive the onslaught of integrated electronic warfare and massed autonomous precision systems. But the definitive question remains open: can the Ukrainian armed forces leverage this innovative island-hopping doctrine to trigger a total domino effect, forcing a complete Russian withdrawal from the left bank of Kherson? Or will the Kremlin find a way to stabilize its logistical corridors and leverage its massive superiority in glide bombs to turn these marshlands into a permanent war of attrition? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. To analyze more military strategies and geopolitical shifts on your daily commute, don't forget to subscribe to our official podcast on Spotify. Thank you for watching.